I refused to play Pokemon Unite until they split solo duo queue and 5-man teams. And that's a shame, because I have not wanted to play Pokemon Unite this much since the game came out. The balance is that good. Buddy Barrier had every problem about it nerfed. Base stats, percent shield, and the shields no longer stack. Literally, it's a completely different game. Every game you've played in the last year is fraudulent because the entire system is different. Those weird Zapdos fights where even though you were massively ahead, all they needed was 3 supports and everyone just piling Buddy Bear at the same time, and then they just won for no reason. Or even like even fights or exact same team comps. It's all about Buddy Bearer. Or if you have one idiot on your team that just gets greedy and doesn't bring Buddy Bearer, you lose because you're at an 80% health disadvantage, and that's it. That's no longer the issue. That's also why I'm not upset about no Zapdos changes. I saw people that were like, well, Zapdos is still a problem, so the game still sucks. Like, no, let this play out, because now it's a completely different game, especially with the score shield mechanics changed. So, like, now the cheese scoring that just ruins the integrity of the game and makes everything uninteractive and lame, that's been nerfed. Greedent's been nerfed. A lot of the backdooring and everything. Like, it's all been nerfed to where it's like, okay, even though Zapdos is still the game, it feels like it's a more fair version of the game. It's not like, oh, the last 8 minutes didn't matter. No, the last 8 minutes mattered because now this is your final fight. This is your skill check. Did you deserve to win? Did you either accumulate enough advantage or put your opponent behind enough to offset any differences between you or the comp or the skill or the players? And now it's like the better fight determines Zapdos and then the game, unless like something tragically goes wrong. But that happens in every game. Overwatch, Valorant, CSGO, League of Legends. Lee Sin just goes in, queues the Baron, steals it. Oh, now they're back in it. Maybe that leads into like a funneling effect where everyone just dies one by one. Now the game's over. Like, comebacks can and should happen. Zapdos definitely overtuned, weird mechanic, but with all the changes that just happened, I want to see how it plays out, because now you have to relearn the game. I've realized that I was playing a lot of the Zapdos fights initially, like, in the beginning of the season wrong, because I'm like, I'm not going to get an extra Buddy Bearer. Like, the positioning is a lot different. I saw, like, a lot of people just uncomfortable, but that's not on them. That's because, like, the entire game is different now. So as that plays out, like, yeah, maybe Zapdos probably needs a little bit of tuning on top of this, but the game is good, and I haven't been as upset from nonsense, except in like when people just don't show up, but that's team diff. That also brings me to another thing. Anyone that says the matchmaking is the problem with Pokemon Unite, like Crashy and all of his idiot fans, they're just wrong and suck at the game because they don't understand how it works. This is the problem. The problem is that as a solo player, which is going to be most of the player base, there is no satisfaction to playing whatsoever because 5-man teams are going to have an artificial win rate advantage over you, and there's no way to climb with that because that's just the team diff that'll happen in solo queue no matter how good you are. You can't have a 90% win rate in solo queue, and that's fine. Okay, like, cool. People that have 5 stacks, they should be rewarded in their own ladder, and then they should prove themselves there. But at this point, like, what happens is all, like, the solo queue talent that could also be elevating how the games end up playing out, they're just, like, kind of scrapping together on a team, because even if they're not the best team, even if they only have, like, an 80% win rate as a jumbled 5-stack, and they're not, like, a pro team, and they have all these gamer tags with them, or they've been playing thousands of games together to be top of the ladder, they're still going to do better than if they were solo queue. And they're going to be roughly on the same page. And also, you get into the really ugly parts where it's like, oh yeah, solo queue players sometimes just go up against 5-stacks. Because there's no one else for that solo queue player to face. If they got luckier, they're just really good. So you are punished in every way. And I want to play the game, but there's no way of me showing it. Like, okay, I'm 1300, even though I am one of the best players in the world, and I had one of the best starts to the game, but I've got 300 people that are, again, artificially inflating their win rates just because they're on team ahead of me, and it's impossible to catch up to that. Like, so, like, what's the point? There's no satisfaction, and that's kind of thing. Like, at least in League of Legends, I have a goal to make it to Plat, and that goal feels achievable. This, like, you just make it to Master, nothing happens, and even 2,800 Master players are terrible. And that brings me back to the matchmaking. Such a large amount of the general player base is awful at this game that there's absolutely no way to compensate for it with matchmaking. That's also just, like, bad players complaining. So I want to show you guys this. This was from one of my games where this is a Crustal. I was rated in the top couple hundred, so we're like, you know, in a top player lobby right now. high win rate, and this is what happened. Uses Stealth Rock, uses the early Fluffy Tail while Pikachu is still around and their Pokemon are respawning, and Zapdos is still above half health, and then leaves to score. We win this game. So this guy, who would cost anyone else any other game, his win rate is artificially inflated by getting carried, even though this is a losing move in 90% of games. It doesn't matter what rank you are, it doesn't matter what happens with matchmaking, there's still going to be players that have no idea how macro works. They're still going to think that Rotom is better to get first instead of Dreadnought, or they're going to have terrible macro. Or like, oh, I picked Greedent, I'm 2700, I'm going to backdoor 100 points, give up Zapdos, and cost the entire game, or just pick the wrong moveset and suck. Like Dive Air / Cramorant, or Brave Bird Talonflame. Like, there's just so many ways to throw the game, and you're going to find it no matter what, and then players are just going to be bad. And that's before any kind of skill gap comes into play. And I don't care how many games my teammates have played or what their win rate is, if you bring Score Shield, Slowbro, or just don't show up at Dreadnought or Zapdos, you're losing the game. And that can be, and I've seen it all skill levels, I've seen it all ranks, it doesn't have anything to do with that. And another problem with the game is, like, win rate doesn't even matter because, or like, the score doesn't matter. So I guess going off of win rate is a bit more accurate because you can have negative win rate and still climb into Master. You can have negative win rate and still climb in Master because all the 5 stacks and all the teams are giga inflating the amount of points that are out there. So if, you know, some teams immediately make it to like 2,000 in the first week, well, you can win 20 in a Master game, maybe even like 25 or something, and lose 6 if you just like go straight into Master, and that'll still like work all the way up to 2,000. But even then, like, eventually you'll float, because that's how the mechanics are. Or also like just kind of climbing out of bench, like, oh man, I got a match with a veteran player, an ultra player. It's like, man, I've seen way worse high Master players than some vets that I've had in the game. It also just kind of like why I don't care about how many games someone has played. I came from a decade of League of Legends experience, applied the macro and just like some basic mechanics, and I immediately became one of the best players in the world, just from a foundation. So maybe someone is fresh off of League, they're actually good at League, or they're just trying to learn. Maybe it's a child, I don't know. But matchmaking isn't the problem because, again, like, I find that everyone sucks everywhere and there's nothing you can do about it. Anyone complaining about matchmaking is complaining because they're bad, when the real problem is the 5 stacks not being separate from solo queue. And again, like, I don't want to support this, and I think you should, like, even if you really, really enjoy the game, I don't think the devs are going to get the message unless you stop playing. Like, why is it that every ranked season start, we get a massive influx of players, and then the next day, 90% of them quit? It's because everyone is optimistic and then is immediately crushed where it's like, man, I have an 80% win rate. That's really good. Like, I have an 80% win rate through my first 20-something, 30-something games, and, you know, and also, like, the going from veteran to ultra and ultra to master is weird because, like, how the class system works. We're like, oh, 2 unfortunate time losses can be worse than, like, 5 good timed losses, and then you're just behind the player that has a lower win rate, which is also exacerbated by, like, 5 stacking and stuff, and then, like, you just don't feel it. And, like, look at all this. Like, we got teams that are under 1,200 because they just go in and then lose their first game. Lamau. Rin is boosted confirmed. I always knew he was bad, and that's not even, like, banter. He's actually just legitimately bad at the game. Like, a lot of influencers and YouTubers and everything else that are just, like, polluting it. Like, influencers and content creators are a larger problem than matchmaker, like the second largest problem behind solo queue and 5 stacking having the same ladder. But even then, like, 5 stack ladder being the same is unhealthy for the 5 stacks because you have to play in a 5 stack if you want to maintain that status at all times, and that's just unhealthy for the game and the players in general. But also, it creates, like, a lot of weird things where if you have a friend of someone on a top team, you just go, oh, they're on a team, I'm not queuing up. Oh, they just got in a game, now I can queue up. So there's also a way of, like, avoiding other strong teams or other strong players and then artificially increasing your win rate that way. So, like, the whole rank system is just pointless and doesn't matter. That's not good. And now just kind of going through the top 100 for a bit where it's like, yeah, you click on someone. There's a couple of, like, solo, duo, trio queue in the top 100, but again, like, that just comes down to luck and really bad queue timings and all that stuff. But, like, yeah, it's all 5 stacks. You know, between me, I was once under 1,000 to now, like, 1,400 because I haven't played a game in the last several hours. But, like, between that, like, it's a majority 5 stack. you remove that, and then like, oh yeah, that also gets to change a lot of the game mechanics, that changes a lot of the grind. It means like you can grind your way to the top to prove you are one of the best players, like Challenger in League of Legends. And it's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, this guy's a god in Challenger, but then he isn't on a pro team for one reason or another. Maybe he's too young, maybe he doesn't want to be on a pro team, maybe he's just like banned in pro because he's notoriously toxic or something, or he just doesn't work in a team environment, he's just great at pugging solos. We don't see that in Pokemon Unite, therefore there's like no drive. And I'm really upset because now I have to wait almost 90 days, a little less than 3 months. I wanted my summer game. Pokemon Unite was going to be that if they fixed it. Pokemon fans need something to do while we're waiting for Pokemon news and Scarlet and Violet. Pokemon Sword and Shield is cheated into oblivion and just unplayable right now. Also, VGC sucks and everything else is like just hacked and fraudulent. Like Wolfclick, the former world champion, is 100% confirmed a cheater. So like that removes a lot of motivation. A lot harder to cheat and get away with it in Pokemon Unite. Pokemon Unite is the only fair, competitive Pokemon game, which is something really great as all the hype for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is only going to take off. So you get a lot more players back in, that's cool. And like, the devs desperately need to reset the season. Because, like, I don't think it matters. Like, I don't care. I just played for a day or even like a week in, even 2 weeks in. It doesn't matter if you reset, just please do an update that separates the queues. Because even if like someone gets offended, it's like, well, I played 100 games in the last week, I'm gonna quit because my effort meant nothing. Either they're not gonna quit or it doesn't matter. Like, okay, so someone that's like a top team or is like already competing or qualifying in the Pokemon Unite Championship Series, they're gonna quit because they lost like 80 game ladder and they can just get it right back under the new system. They're going to give up thousands of dollars in prize money or whatever revenue they're getting from like streaming and doing content about the game just because of a reset? No. Even if everyone in the top 1,000 goes, oh, my top 1,000 doesn't matter to you, I'm just going to quit. You get hundreds of thousands of players back. Like, this is the snowball. The buddy barrier fix mixed with everything else that's going on in the game, this is what could just make Pokemon Unite just blow up out of nowhere like how Among Us did. That seems to be something that happens where a game's been floating around for a while and then just becomes the most popular thing ever. Like, what if Pokemon Unite becomes the next Pokemon Go? Or starts taking market share from League of Legends because it's a satisfying game. And like, it has a lot of factors to it because solo queue separated from 5 stacks increases queue times unless you get more players in. Queue times are longer when you have a broken system and everyone quits. If you triple your player base for the solo queue side, and then like the teams or people quit, like you're still winning and everything's better. It's like you have to take the risk or else your game just slowly dies, and Pokemon Unite has actually died in a pretty rapid way. And if you start getting market share from other gamers, then that means the quality of the players in your game goes up and everyone is having a better time. Now the influencer thing does get away, like in the way, because that's kind of what killed Pokemon Unite early. We had Critical just spouting nonsense about how the game was pay to win, everyone bandwagoning on that for the views. That hurt the game, and then just like bad content creators like A-Drive admitting to being bad at the game and then making a tier list, and then idiots following that tier list despite it being bad game information, and like other content creators saying like Score Shield's good and whatnot. Like, yeah, that's just going to harm games. That's why the player base is down, like, God, I don't even want to know how many 90s%. But I think the game is healthier, and like from a casual side, from someone that's not even going to interact with too many videos or too many stuff in the community, the game just makes sense and is balanced now and is like reasonable. And even like the Pokemon changes are feeling good, and now there's like a lot of Pokemon for someone to just dive into. A lot of like catch up and comeback mechanics. Like, people that quit the game thinking it's pay to win don't know that once you hit level 14, you just get 3 items to level 30. And the problem is, like, a content creator would be like, hey, this item's busted, and then instead of using like their 1 week trial, they would just upgrade to level 30 and then find out it's bad, like Score Shield or something, and then they get upset and they quit the game instead of just either making a new account and grinding back to 14 or kind of sucking it up because it wasn't pay to win anyways. But like, with these changes and potential Zapdos adjustments, Pokemon Unite is looking to be objectively better than League of Legends as a MOBA. And it's also really nice because it's like, wow, item diversity? I want to try out new team compositions. I want to try out new item compositions. I want to try out new fighting strategies and then like see how that goes. But I do not see the point if all of my work goes to nothing and I'm just left in like solo queue hell, where again, like the good players get siphoned off into teams, leaving just a larger percentage of bad players in like the solo queue thing, and then Yeah, like now I don't get any reward and I don't get any satisfaction from playing Pokemon Unite. Please, devs, you desperately need to just shift the queue. Like, start working on the new system now, implement it 2 weeks from now, and you still have me. You bring me back as a player. You're actually +1 players. I don't quit from that. I come back. Even though I've already spent, like, I don't remember how many hours I played. Like, I already played a couple dozen games. I will not be upset. Like, the devs have finally made their game good, and they are poised for a viral summer, but they're throwing it away for no reason. And that's a shame. Maybe the wallet will speak to them. Like, I never thought I'd see these changes after they did their developer update, and they were like, oh, we like all the wacky things that are happening in our game. No, apparently it was unhealthy, and like, esports is reset here. Every esports or competitive game that has happened up until this point just doesn't count, because of these changes just completely changing the entire game and everything that happened in those games or the meta around it and whatever. So, like, this is the fresh start, and they chose not to start fresh. Damn. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.